How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today we're talking about the 13 biggest mistakes people make when they move to Denver, Colorado, and we're covering them starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Evertson. Listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around Denver, Colorado, then this is the channel for you. So that subscribe button and the notification icon you see, make sure you click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And as much as I try to be a little creative and entertaining here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the Denver Metro's most talented realtors. And we're helping people move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person, answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails. They're winning if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is the 13 biggest mistakes people make when they move to Denver, Colorado. All right, so if we're gonna start a list about the biggest mistakes people make, number one, and the one I get feedback on the most from people, is that they underestimate how expensive Denver can be. They underestimate or they don't take into account properly the cost of living of Denver and also the cost of housing, the challenge of how high priced housing can be in the Denver metro area and in various parts of Colorado. Now, when we're talking about affordability, again, we can talk about groceries, we can talk about medical bills, we can talk about going out and enjoying yourself within the Denver metro. But it will always come back to housing first and foremost. That's typically our number one cost. So with housing, we know home affordability as far as purchasing has been stretched. Denver's market has been hot for more than a decade, and that included obviously getting through the pandemic, and even as interest rates rose, we still saw home prices increase here in Denver. So housing can be very expensive to buy for a lot of folks, and rents to some extent plateaued. Following the pandemic, we've had an influx of the amount of apartments available, but still, again, depending on what you're looking for, depending on how desirable the neighborhoods or the apartment complexes that you want to be in are, or if you're trying to rent a house, townhome, etc., that can be pricey. Now, I've always found when we talk about affordability, this really depends on where someone is coming from. When I talk to people that are coming from Seattle, California, Washington, D.C., New York, Miami, those people are coming to Denver and they go, man, this place is cheap. I can get this apartment for this. They're blown away. When I talk to someone moving here from Chicago or somewhere in the Midwest, coming up from parts of Texas, Oklahoma, they can really be blown away by it. So I think just taking into account what your cost of living is going to look like. What does your economic situation look like? That is the biggest mistake that you can avoid moving to Denver, Colorado. And tied to that, number two is securing a job ahead of time. Now, listen, I know that's not always possible. Some people are going to transfer here with a job. Some people are going to have a job offer in place as they get out here. But there have been plenty of times where I've had conversations with folks where the idea was they were going to get here, they were going to find, most likely something to rent, and then they're going to start looking for jobs. And after, a few months, if they haven't found the right one, the stress starts to set in. So I know that's not always avoidable. And I know that there are times in life where you just got to take a swing and you're going to make a move before you have that job. But if it's possible, secure a position or at least have a pretty darn good idea of where you're going job-wise before you make that move. Number three, and we started pretty serious, so let's loosen up a little bit, but still important, is underestimating the power of the sun. Now, listen, there's plenty of videos that are going to talk about how much sun we get and our high altitude and all of that stuff, so I don't need to go super long-winded here, but high altitude means the sun gets to you quicker. It means that and I don't mean like light gets to you quicker, I just mean it burns you faster. Let me preface this. If there's a flat earther watching, though, we can debate, because I love you folks. You're entertaining. Anyway, so you get burned quicker, you dry. It's a dry climate, so you're gonna need your sunscreen. You're gonna need to be prepared for snow, whether that means how you drive or how you dress. You need to be prepared for layers. There's going to be days, today was one of them, where it was pretty darn chilly this morning and you felt like you needed to bundle up, and by the afternoon, it's March right now, but we're in the mid 60s as far as the temperature. So being prepared to acclimate to our weather here. And yes, if you want to make a comment about the fact that I said the sun gets to you faster, sometimes words are not my friends. Number 4, and this is going to take some time because you got to have a feel, but it's underestimating the vibe. I'm going to use the term vibe because I'm so hip, of the neighborhoods in Denver and getting a feel for what's going to fit the bill for you. So let's talk about, for instance, when I was in my 20s, I loved going down to Lodo, lower downtown. Great for nightclubs, going out, enjoying yourself. It's still a fun place to go, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of people who think they're gonna move to Denver and they wanna live in the city, but they haven't really gotten a feel for it. Or I have people who say they wanna move to areas like Highlands Ranch, which is a suburb southwest of Denver. Highlands Ranch is like suburb. Great neighborhood, one of the most popular suburbs in all of Denver. But again, if you don't really have a feel for it, if you haven't spent some time in it, you can kind of miscalculate. Maybe you find a place that you really like, but you could also land in a spot that just doesn't fit your needs. Number 5, and I hate to talk about traffic, but it's thinking that you can avoid traffic by moving here. Now, I'm not going to compare Denver traffic to Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or Miami. Let's not, we're not that bad. But for the most part, compared to other cities of similar size, population, what have you, Denver can get pretty backed up. So, and odds are you are going to need a car. We might discuss that later. But, for the most part, thinking that you're going to move to Denver for the purposes of getting away from traffic, unless you're coming from somewhere where traffic is crazy, like Los Angeles, you might not be very happy with that change of pace. Now, number 6 and 7 are going to tie in together. Number 6 is that you don't embrace the outdoors. And listen, I'm coming from a place of experience here. When I first moved back to Denver in 2008, I grew up here, but I was never a super outdoorsy kid. I don't know. We didn't grow up snowboarding. We didn't grow up skiing. We camped every now and again, but I wasn't a huge outdoors person. When I first moved back in 2008, I couldn't stand hiking. I didn't have the patience for it. I was a city person. I was dating this girl at the time. She always wanted to hike. And I remember every Saturday morning hoping for rain so I didn't have to go hiking. Eventually I grew to love it. Now, I think when we talk about this, whether you're into hiking, camping, fishing, mountain biking, kayaking, whatever it is, or maybe it's not something extreme. Maybe it's just going to a park and playing some volleyball or, beer in hand, kickball, something like that. Finding something that you enjoy doing outdoors is crucial to Denver, because I do believe that the majority of people you meet in the Denver metro area, or in Colorado for that matter, are going to enjoy the outdoors. So, it doesn't have to happen right away. Maybe you're a very indoor person, you don't enjoy it at first, but just finding something is going to be crucial. And I think the people who don't do that are making a mistake. Now, tying on to that would be number 7, and that is also don't think that you have to come out here and be a pro skier or a pro snowboarder. But as far as skiing and snowboarding, I'm just now learning how to do these things. I'm in my mid 40s and learning, but it has not drastically impacted me that I don't ski. And also don't think that because you're not a pro skier or a skier that you are not able to or going to enjoy the mountains during the winter, or that they're off limits when there's snow. There's still going to be enjoyable things to do. You can still go explore mountain towns. There's snowshoeing or whatever the case may be. Maybe you wouldn't go to the mountains because you're not into the outdoors, but just because you don't ski doesn't mean you can't get into the mountains all year round. Doesn't mean there aren't things to do in Colorado year round. So that is a common misconception though. I've had people who call me and they say, well, I'm debating between Austin and Denver, but I'm not a big skier. That should not be your make or break of whether you go to Denver or Austin. It should be the fact that Colorado's better than Texas. I'm just kidding, Texas. I'm really not. I think Colorado's better than Texas, but you think Texas is better than Colorado. I don't even know why I brought that up. We're both better than Oklahoma though. I love you, Sooners. just getting myself in so much trouble in this video for no reason. Number 8, and listen, I think this is perfectly normal for people moving to a new area because you just don't know. And when you're visiting a place for a short period of time, you tend to go to the most popular areas. But number 8 is really diving into some local culture. You know, going to locals restaurants and, you know, asking questions about, you know, where do locals tend to go, some neighborhoods, some historical areas, really exploring Denver and wherever that is, you know, whatever community you're living in, really diving into that and enjoying pieces of its history. Now, Denver has changed a lot, especially over the last 10 years. You know, I joke on many of these videos. When I first moved back in 2008, Denver was still a cow town. I mean, you could still see horse ranches within a handful of miles of downtown Denver. It's grown rapidly the last 10 to 15 years. And so our culture, you know, Denver has become much more of a melting pot than it was back in the early 2000s and prior to that. So finding the new dynamics of the culture of the neighborhoods, the culture of the people who have moved here, and really embracing that. Not just going to the popular place that Google showed first because it's the steakhouse of the neighborhood. Number 9, and this is just a common theme, and that is thinking that all of Colorado is Denver. I'll make videos about mistakes people make moving to Colorado, or videos about people moving to Colorado, not mistakes, but general. And people will lose their mind talking about Denver, even though I'm talking about the state. Denver is our biggest city. It's got a lot going for it, certainly has its negatives, but Colorado as a whole has nothing to do, like Denver is not the make or break point of Colorado as far as whether people enjoy it or not. I know people who, you know, whether you're living into the mountains, whether you're getting into the suburbs, you know, when you look at Denver or when you hear news, good or bad about Denver, don't think that that is just impacting all of Colorado. You know, if somebody says Denver's going to hell, doesn't mean all of Colorado's going to hell. It's also not accurate, but you get the point. And so that leads into number 10, and that is a big mistake is not exploring outside of the city. And I mean, I'd call myself guilty of this for my first couple of years coming back. I mean, I was from Colorado, so I mean, I had some sense, but you know, not getting into these different communities, not going into different towns, not getting into the mountains, not, you know, driving up to a Boulder or a Fort Collins, which is a couple hours north of us, not getting down to a Colorado Springs or Pueblo, which again are an hour and a half, 2 hours south of us. So really getting a chance to explore the state, and certainly, you know, I would imagine if you're moving to Denver or if you're moving to Colorado, the mountains are playing some sort of factor in there. So taking some time to explore some mountain towns and really enjoy how beautiful Colorado is. If there's something that a lot of natives like yourself are jaded about, is that we, I mean, at least I admit, we forget how beautiful Colorado can be. We forget how beautiful the mountains are. So I encourage that. Don't make the mistake of moving to Denver and then just hanging out in Denver and calling it a day. Number 11, and this is very common, don't think that marijuana here is a free-for-all. And this goes for people who are gonna smoke marijuana and people who can't stand marijuana. Well, let's start with the people who can't stand marijuana. Don't think that every single place you go to, you're just gonna be surrounded with a cloud of smoke. Yes, there's gonna be times you might be at an outdoor concert, you might be walking down 16th Street Mall, like there might be times where you catch a whiff or it's there, occasionally at like a random, and I think this is anywhere. I don't think this is just a Denver thing. You go to an indoor concert or sporting event and like some idiot lights up something. But again, that may occur, but you're not just surrounded by marijuana all the time. It's just not how it is. Now for the people who do partake in marijuana and have at it, I could honestly care less. It's not a free-for-all from a standpoint of like, you don't walk down the street roasting. You know, you're supposed to, you know, in your home, you're supposed to like get privacy, and some people get to Colorado and they just think that they can do it wherever they want. You will get cited. I don't really know if the cops pay that much attention to it, but like, I don't know, have some common courtesy, I suppose. Look at me on my random soapbox I didn't even intend to jump on. So having said that, let's jump on to our last couple, and that is getting involved in your community in some way, shape, or form. Now listen, I know when you move somewhere, some people are a little extroverted, they can meet anybody, some people are introverted, but trying to find something, some type of community event, some type of thing, maybe it's a day in the park, or maybe it's a local chamber of commerce, something like that, just something to get you, local church, whatever you're into, but something to get you into the community, connecting with people, because I've heard enough that people moving to Denver can be that melting pot. You're meeting a lot of people, but it can also be very isolating. And I've gotten that feedback from enough people from these videos who have moved here where it can feel a little lonely for them. So I would suggest really making an effort to dive into your community. And last, lucky 13, or am I backwards? I don't know if I'm mirrored here, which that. Do not forget to register your vehicle. That is a common goof that people make when they move to Denver, is that they don't register a vehicle, they don't make sure that it is legal here in the state. You can also certainly check into public transportation, different options there. Denver's bus system is pretty good. Light rail could be helpful if you're near a station. It's kind of not useful, kind of not. It's kind of ungood if you're not near one of the light rail stations, but definitely check out that. I will tell people, for the most part, I think the vast majority of people who live in Denver or the metro area, you're gonna want a car. It's really hard to get around consistently and affordably if you do not have a car. So I suggest a car if you can, and I strongly encourage you to register it. That will be good for you. Now I'll say, while that is the 13 biggest mistakes people can make, number 14 is easily not hitting me up and having a conversation about your thoughts of moving to Denver, Colorado. So that's a perfect opportunity. There's the number, there's the email. Know that I'm always the person. Answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there when and if you need me. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. That was the 13 biggest mistakes people make when moving to Denver, Colorado. Until I see you next time, peace.